I was a white person like Jake Paul, one of them. I had all the shit I had. I'd be the biggest person in life. Shout out to Andrew Tate. He's half black, but he kind of looked white. That's how he got to. I was here before him. Had all them cars before Wes and all these people. But I'm black, so it's like a certain cap you would get to, and that would happen. So I had to be the guinea pig for my people, and I took that, and it was a blessing to go through it and still bounce back. But it was a hell of a time.
I wonder why there's a cap. That's interesting.
It is interesting, right? Because you can't tell me like a real urban black person that's in the content creation that's real. Not a video game player like me, like what's up? You didn't see me knock out robbers. You didn't see me have women and all this at the highest level. I don't stream. I don't play no video games. I'm a real so to speak. You know what I'm saying? So you can't show me another that's at that level and stays there and keep going up. It's almost impossible in the content creation world. It's just a fact. And no one can tell me otherwise.
Like, I knew it, bro. I've been saying this forever, but I just needed a little clarification.
What's happening, fam? L.A.R. movement still moving. Subscribe or die trying. You see the thumbnail. More importantly, you saw the clip of Mr. Organic. Black content has a glass ceiling. This has been said by black content creators, YouTube, social media, for close to a decade now. And as much as people go, is it this, is it that? It's basically, it's a glass ceiling. We've talked about the shadow ban, and we've talked about the algorithm and something being fishy with it. And the reason I'm saying what I'm saying is because it's something we all notice. Like Mr. Organic, he had a good run. He's still doing his thing, but even with YouTube, they had these things. Well, if you do this, your channel will grow. If you do that, your channel will grow. If you do this, your channel will grow. But basically, what it was only certain types of people would grow, and we saw that in seasons. Like we saw people who were we saw the people who were selling out grow fast. We saw people who were fitting a stereotype grow fast. We saw people who were pushing the LGBT agenda growing fast. We saw people who were anti-black man growing fast. But then when we just look around, every now and then you see somebody blow up here, somebody blow up there, because just doing stuff. But in a general sense, all the rules that they say, if you do this, if you do that, you should grow. The vast majority of black content creators who followed all those rules didn't grow. The vast majority of them. And the issue basically is, and I've seen it time and time again, these channels aren't growing. It's like a glass ceiling on the content. But at the same time, you see bigger content creators basically mimicking it. And what I mean is they weren't talking about they weren't talking about that particular content. They didn't have these talking points. This wasn't something that was even on their radar. And then somehow all of a sudden you have black content creators talking about something, and then it'll pop up on different people's channels, whether it be news, whether it be politics, whether it be just social issues, whether it just whether we're talking about society, whether people making predictions about things, and it kept popping up. Because back in the day, you used to be able to see who was subscribed to you, and I believe and you would basically see who was watching you. And it was weird because you would have bigger people just subscribe, and you'd be like, man, I wouldn't expect that. And then you listen to them and they say the exact same thing you said a month ago, but they weren't doing that content the whole time they've been online. Let me fast forward a little bit. Like in my algorithm, I see certain content, and I've said it before. To this day, I see people have videos and they keep popping up on my feed. But every time I see the videos, there's hardly any views on them. And I remember this because YouTube had a thing where, it'll show you how many videos you had, or or how many views you had rather, and then there was a time where they say you have this amount plus. They didn't give you an exact number, but with a lot of black content creators, they would have a lot of comments. So the videos will have like 0 views, but they'll have like 150 comments, 50 comments, 200 comments, just depending on how, how many subscribers these people had. And that goes from a small YouTuber to I remember when I think Essence Magazine was on YouTube doing that. It was the same thing. And I'm like, oh, okay. And it was weird, but it's like, oh, people got a glass ceiling. And then the topics, as you see now, the topics are everywhere. You get what I'm saying? Hold that thought. I'm back. Sorry about that. The topics are everywhere. I remember the Trayvon Martin thing. It really spread on YouTube with black content creators. Thus what you see about the new black media. That's really part of where that started, because black content creators online was like, no, we're gonna talk about this. And seeing that mainstream media wasn't messing with it, right? And then you see things like now, like me being in the black manosphere, the topics that we talked about for years, all of a sudden I'm driving to work, they're talking about on the radio. All of a sudden, bigger content creators are using the content. All the way from, this section doesn't get any shine or light about it, but people talk about the section but don't talk about the people. And then people, use the same topics for their own shows. It went all the way to Fox Soul. It went from the YouTube to Fox Soul, right? And you look and you're like, I think we got an issue here, because there's no way you're going to tell me that we're at a point where these content creators can't grow. You make thousands of videos in 1,000 videos in a year. Anywhere from, let's just say 365 is one every day, to 800 to 1,000 or something, but you don't grow. And then you have people who just show up, who are just predominantly white. They just show up, dude, and all of a sudden they got 250,000 followers. And even the thing that people were tripping about just pearly things. Black guys talking about this is an issue. White girl pops up to the moon. It's like, wait a minute, we got problems. And you saw that over and over and over and over and over again, to the point where people couldn't deny it. People were saying it, but you couldn't. And people were like, "Nah, that's not what happened." But you couldn't deny it, because it started to be a habit. Now, as and I'm talking about this from, I was making videos before YouTube was monetizing videos and you was getting paid for them. So I'm talking about from when you could just upload videos all the way to maybe few years after monetization. It was like, why, everybody was supposed to be able to grow, but that wasn't the case. You had a lot of people who we couldn't understand, like what they're not saying, they're not talking about anything, they're not saying anything, they're not doing anything, but the channels will blow up. And it was frivolous. But then it was like, okay, young people gravitating to young stuff, whatever, that's cool. But then you saw these adults, and we would see these huge jumps, like this channel will pop up and they'll make a video, cool, and then all of a sudden a month later they got 20,000 people. You're like, how did that happen? And I'm gonna say this. I remember once doing a live, and I could say maybe I missed my opportunity, but I didn't freak out. But I just kind of looked at it like, I don't like it. I don't like what this is. I was doing a live years ago, and maybe 100 people in there. And I got a comment, and it was like, "Yo," they was just saying, "I like what you're doing," blah 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 blah. And then they said they were something, something as far as like they had a lot of people. And I was like, okay, that's cool. And it was like, I'm gonna show you. And all of a sudden, my live went from like 100 people to 700. And I looked, and I was like, nah, man, y'all gotta go. I don't like that. I don't like somebody can just press a button, and all of a sudden, there's 700 people in here. I'm thinking to myself, like, I feel like I've been set up because I felt like I had been set up in the sense of, if I would have just, you know, put on a good show, I probably would have had more subscribers. But at that point, I feel like, you know, oh y'all, if you can push the button to push all these people in here, you can push a button to make sure these people don't come here either. And I'm like, okay. And and Mr. Organic wasn't even one of those people that was on the race thing. I think he was on the opposite end. Like, when he was doing this thing, he was, it's not a race thing. I'm fly, blah blah blah. But I guess that over time, he's like, nah, no, because ironically, he can't be a wrestler, even though he's probably the size. Like, he couldn't parlay that into being a wrestler, like uh like Logan, I think. He can't be a boxer. He can't do that type of stuff. And I'm not gonna say black people didn't grow, but what I'm gonna say is, if you make content that has you uh looking like you're a smart person and you're black, nope, you're gonna have issues. You're gonna have issues. And I think that's the issue. Like, you can just be a regular, you can be a real one. You can just be a regular black person, and you don't fit the stereotype of, you know, what the world wants to see, whether it be a negative sense, mostly negative sense, or even a sexual sense. If you don't fit that, you're gonna have a problem. And you see, like, with other people, it just don't go that way. And you even see it, like, you see people who have smaller channels. They have, they might have 5,000, 10,000 followers, and then you see the amount of views they get. You're like, oh, okay, all right, I get it. There's a glass ceiling with us. And every now and then, when they say there's a new wave to do something, if you do this, if you do that, if you do that, some people it works with. But most of the time, you see black content creators and they grow. It's very organic. It has to push outside of the box that YouTube will put you in. And that's why people ran to TikTok too, because there was less of that box. But that's just my 2 cents. Y'all tell me what you think. Like, share, subscribe. Catch you on the next one. Peace. You ever been at the top of the universe? I'm gonna tell you that.